Okay, so welcome and thanks all for turning up tonight. It's lovely to see you all, for the regulars and the returners and the first timers as well. It's nice to see. Um, as I was kind of saying before, I had the thought that it's mindfulness is a difficult thing to sell. It's a difficult thing to encourage people to do, and it's a difficult practice to undertake to develop because it's so contrary to what's going on around us in a lot of our lives, which seem to be very fast, um, opportunistic, materialistic, and it's easy. It's so easy to get lost in that. It's almost like the world is designed in many ways to promote quick fixes, instant fixes, uh, gratification, instant gratification. Um, all sort of tweaking the dopamine reward centers of the brain without much effort at all. So we become accustomed to little bursts of feel good from not necessarily the wrong places, but from things that don't actually have any sustainable value, like social media or junk food or some other substances or whatever. So what we're doing today, we're gonna guide ourselves back to a state of true resting. And it's what I would consider our natural state. We have to be very careful with the wording here because it instantly makes us feel like we're doing something wrong if we're not resting easily then. But what I'm suggesting is that our natural state is easily distracted by what's going on around us. And the way we process that information is very heady. And it seems to be that, you know, the longer we live, the more stuff we accumulate in our minds. And especially if we've had like some difficult experiences, it can really push us into this kind of conceptual version of reality. So what is that? That's really like I sent an email out, and the I say the pointer for this kind of difference is imagining, say, the last meal you had. It might have been dinner or lunch, and just tuning into what it's like to remember that experience. And of course, you were there. You might not remember all the details, but you'll remember something about it, and you'll perhaps have an image or a memory of, or a description or a narrative about what that was like. And of course, that does not exist anymore. That experience is gone. It's made of mental activity. But what happens is we use that faculty to remember and to imagine, imagine what we're having for dinner tomorrow. And we seem to get so drawn into that we lose contact with this moment, with the reality that surrounds us and is indeed within us and without us and all around us. There's a direct experience of life which doesn't require thought. And it's perceivable through the senses. What we're seeing in front of us now is not, we might argue it's milliseconds in the past, but it's happening now. The seeing of it is happening now. The sounds that are arriving in our ears, they're only here now, and then they're gone. The sensations of our body, tuning into those, they're only here in this moment. And actually, thoughts are only here in this moment as well. But when our awareness drifts so closely to thoughts that we don't know we're doing it, that's when we get that experience of time travel. That's when we get we're living in a conceptual reality. We're living in the labeling part of our mind, which is one step away from the real experience of what's happening now, if we're not noticing it. So we get drawn into thinking, we get drawn into imagination. We may not even be aware we're doing it. We may spend most of our day in this. This might be when you arrive somewhere and you're not quite sure how you got there, or you can't remember what you had for lunch, or the past week has gone and you've kind of not really been at home for any of it, because we're kind of living in the conceptual world. And the problem that brings with it, potentially, is that that experience is secondhand, and it is filtered through the experiences that we've had before. It's almost, well, it is filtered through our limitations, it's filtered through our past experiences, and unfortunately, because of the human software package that we have, we tend to focus more on the negative things naturally, because it's safer to do that. It's safer to focus on things that could go wrong, things that have gone wrong. That's how we survived through the savannah for however long. So we've inherited a mind that likes to focus on the past and the future. It likes to filter things through negative experiences. And it also is very good at drawing our attention. And when we're attached to that conceptual mind, it's very difficult to rest, because even when we physically stop and rest, the mind carries on and it takes us away, and it might create scenarios or replay arguments you've had. And when your mind's doing that and you're unconsciously attached to it, your body will respond with the same hormones and stress chemicals that it would if you were facing that in real life. Don't know if you've ever come out of one of those little daydreams and noticed the tension in the body, or the heart rate is up, and we've got lost in the mind, and it's very seductive. One of the analogies for mindfulness is to be sitting on the side of the road watching the cars go by. You know, the thoughts are cars driving past, and then all of a sudden, before we know it, we've got in the car and we're driving down the road in the thought. And then we recognize that, oh, well, I got lost in that thought, and we get out the car and sit back on the side of the road. And that's a great analogy, but I want to take it one step further, which is probably more realistic, is that the person on the bank is addicted to cars. He's like a racing driver or something. He just absolutely loves cars. So it's very, very hard for him to not get stuck in the car. And that seems to be, certainly in my experience of meditation, what it's like. The thoughts are so enticing. They might be unconscious kind of problem-solving thoughts. It might be something, that we can really get our teeth into. But it's still that detached from reality experience if we don't know we're doing it. It's a simulation that we're playing in our minds. And that, again, is filtered through the experiences that we've had in the past, which quite often tend to be remembered in the negative. So, sounds a bit doom and gloom, but essentially what I'm trying to say is there's another world here. There's another world in front of our face. It's palpable. We can feel it. We can see it. We can hear it. We can taste it. We can touch it. And we can know it. We can get closer to it. And when we do that, this show becomes more obvious, becomes more superficial, transparent, and we start developing a better relationship with stopping and resting, because we can, my hand's stuck in there, because we can rest without being pulled about by all that stuff. Now, this isn't something we'll pick up in one mindfulness session. This is something we have to practice at. And the way we do it in meditation is we sit there and we relax and we focus on the breath, and we notice every time that the mind wanders. And we might get in the first car that comes along and be gone for the whole meditation in thought stream. That might be how the meditation goes. It might be that we get in and out of 1,000 different cars in a minute. And that is, it's neither good nor bad. That is just how the meditation goes. There's nothing wrong with getting lost in thought. There's nothing wrong with being pulled around by the mind. It's simply what the mind does. And it has an associated feeling, or it did for me for a very long time, of, oh no, I'm not doing this right. I'm not doing this right. I'm too distracted. And again, we have to recognize that that is just one of the cars going past. I'm too distracted is a thought. I'm not very good at this. Oh, that's another car. See it, let it pass on by. But it's practice. So I think that's kind of what I wanted to say today. Yeah, essentially, we live in this kind of attitude of striving, of trying to get away from this moment, because sometimes when we drop back, it's a little bit scary. It's a little bit like, oh, I didn't, this is something uncomfortable feeling here. And again, we have to look at the mind. Is this actually uncomfortable, or is this just something that the mind is coming up with? Is this just a translation error? Is there anything wrong with now? So we will get into the meditation. For those who haven't practiced, I usually guide us into a posture, and then we'll settle with the breath. Then we'll go into a short body scan, and then we'll open into a restful meditation. Just try and remember, especially if you're new to meditation or have high expectations of yourself, or perhaps tend to be self-critical, that's all perfectly normal, and it's okay. We're just whenever you can, just notice it. That's the critical mind. That's the worrisome mind. And always returning your awareness, once you notice that you're lost in thoughts, returning it to this moment, to the evidence of this moment, actual evidence, the sights, the smells, the sounds, the sensations. And gradually we're strengthening that elastic of the mind to return to what's real, to return to here. And at its deepest point, this moment is peaceful. It's only what we add to it that causes it to take a different form. It's the descriptions, the labels. So if we just take a posture now, never particularly strict on this, just finding a position that feels comfortable, that enables your body to settle and to relax, to let go. And it may be helpful, if you're determined to stay awake through this practice, to sit up a little straighter, to offer some length to the spine. And equally, it's okay if you just want to completely lay back and relax as well. That's totally fine. We'll meditate in this way for about 25 minutes. And our only job is to notice what happens, to notice when we're lost in thought, and to come back. Just dropping any expectations of ourselves to achieve anything, to be something other than what we are right now. Can we allow ourselves just to be? We can start by bringing our awareness closer to the breath. Noticing the natural rhythm and flow of air moving in and out of the body. We may feel this on the nose, may feel it in the throat, the chest. We may feel it down in the belly. So just getting settled by following the natural rhythm of the breath. Again, it's a good opportunity to notice the difference between the mind and breathing itself. Can we focus on the evidence of the breath? Focusing on the sensations of the breath. Coming closer to the breath. Noticing the beginning and the middle and the end of the inhale. Notice how the breath turns from inhale to exhale, and noticing the beginning and the middle and the end of the exhale. And we can invite the breath to deepen slightly. Bringing a nice balanced flow of in and out breath. So our inhales and exhales are a similar length. You may wish to visualize the waves of the sea coming up the beach on the inhale, And returning to the sea as we exhale. I'll also offer some guidance in terms of counting, but please feel free to follow your own flow and rhythm of breath. Breathing in for 2, 3, 4, and out for 2, 3, 4. In 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4. In and out. In and out. Allowing that rhythm of breath to naturally take hold. As we ride the in and the exhale in our own way. And whenever the mind wanders into thinking, into judgment, just gently ushering the mind back to this breathing and counting, or breathing and visualizing the waves. So we don't get lost in thinking, but we notice when we do get lost in thinking. We don't judge, but notice when we are judging. We're not striving, but noticing when we do begin to strive away from this moment. And letting go of any counting or visualizations, allowing the very natural rhythm of the breath to return. Just being curious about the breath. Noticing every sensation of the breath. Becoming more aware of the exhale. Noticing how the body naturally wants to let go as we exhale. Notice how the shoulders soften, the belly softens. We give in that little bit more to gravity with every out breath. And we can move our awareness all the way down to the floor, noticing our feet on the floor, noticing the weight of the feet connected to the ground. Any contact of clothing. Noticing the stillness of the earth under our feet. Staying with the feeling, with the evidence. How do I know I've got feet? And bringing that awareness, guiding it up through the lower legs, through the knees, becoming aware of the thighs, the hips, the weight of our bums on the chair. Noticing if there's any tension or holding, and just giving that space. Allowing our body to soften into the space around us. Noticing the upper body, the belly, the chest, the back. The arms, noticing the sensations of the hands. Any space in and around the hands, in between the fingers. Noticing the shoulders and the neck, the head and the face. Noticing any tension, giving it space to be here. Just allowing our whole body just to be exactly as it is. Just as a field of sensation. Noticing if there's any particular intense sensations, maybe discomforts or pain. And giving those space to be here. Noticing if the mind is busy, and that's perfectly okay. The mind will want to do other things, entice us away. And we're not here to change that. We simply notice it happening. I got lost in thoughts again. I got lost in the story. And then we guide our awareness back to this breathing body, this space and spaciousness that's here. Noticing the space that we're in. Noticing the aliveness that's here. And we rest. We're not even meditating, we're simply having a moment of rest. We're not here to change anything. We're resting as awareness. The awareness that's aware of sensations. It's aware of thoughts. It's aware of emotions. And whenever we get lost in thought, whenever we find ourselves driving down that road in that particular idea or story, we acknowledge it. Okay, that's happened. Start thinking about what's happening later, a conversation I had earlier, solving that conundrum. And we simply excuse ourselves from the car, thank you. But thinking has very, very little to do with what we're doing here. We simply, as best as we can, find the breath, find the body. Finding some evidence. So what's the mind saying? Noticing whatever the mind is pulling us towards. And just letting it go, noticing it. Might be helpful to label it. And then just letting it go like a balloon, just to waft off into the sky. Coming back to rest. Allowing the body again to soften. tuning into the sensations of the breath. Just a couple of little experiments before we close the practice. Coming to any sensation in the body, simply becoming as aware as we can of this sensation. Maybe it's the hands, maybe it's a discomfort, maybe some other body part. Just totally aware, getting deeper and deeper into that sensation, that feeling. Allowing the edges of this sensation to dissolve. Coming into the felt sense of this moment. And just dropping labels momentarily, if that's possible, dropping words, labels, concepts and ideas, just letting all that momentarily stop. Knowing this moment without a description. And as we come toward the end of the practice, as always, perhaps bringing a hand to the chest, spending a moment in dedication, recognizing that the benefits of this meditation practice, they're for us and naturally for those people that we know, that we come into contact with. I'm wishing that the benefits can spread through those people that we know into the world, bringing a little bit more peace, a little bit more joy, a little bit more presence. Just one step at a time. Just allowing the body to begin to move again, allowing the eyes to open if they've become closed.